Welcome back to One Crack News. What's cracking? Now I'm hearing a crazy echo. Well, the Vice President debate has brought up a lot of issues that has affected a lot of people. Most people that I know, this was going to be the most civilized debate between the two candidates. Then you got from the mudslinging contest between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. This was more based around what was the direction of the two camps and what they could provide. And a lot of people wanted to hear that, to see what information they would take, not basically about who won between the two, but more importantly, what they could do for America. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, as we're going to get rolling. Sorry about that. Crazy echo. Now that's fixed. We can get down to business. I ain't got no time to talk about this. What is this? Must be a circus in town. We got to get down on these clowns. Can I get a witness? Oh, yeah. Now, once again, we're back stuck in this Don Wrinkles got cooked. I ain't gonna lie, he got cooked. Let's go over the facts of what happened between the Ohio Senator J.D. Vance and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. This debate was more like, who the hell are these people? Because you didn't know anything about the two. You really didn't. Walsh, you heard before, and he comes off as like a cotton candy Ohio conservative individual who did not know Black people existed until like about 15 years ago. But having that man try to tell me what he could do for Black people is very terrifying. Now, here it is. The thing about it is these two people are friends. Like, they agree on a lot of things. They don't really agree with a lot of Trump stuff. But Tim Walsh looked like completely behind the eight ball in the debate. He looked completely flustered the entire time. Like, what happened? Huh? What is he talking about? He kind of looked. He kind of just had the look of somebody that shouldn't be talking. Like, you should see him and not, like, not really go along with what he's saying. He looks completely dumbfounded sometimes on the stage. It was hilarious to watch. That's the look that you saw a lot during this debate. And it was quite entertaining. But let's get to the takeaways of the points. Now, in an event that this is unlikely to change the trajectory of the presidential race, they were cordial to each other. Like I told you, the attacks were very small and light. Wasn't like anything else you've seen before in the past. No, because when you start thinking in that manner, or you start saying to yourself, "Oh, this is gonna be too much for me. I don't think I can keep up. It's just too much. I don't know." Once you start going down those tropes, you've already messed up. No, no, it's not that. You see, Vance was the Republicans' ticket's younger face with the more polite voice. Unlike Trump, he's the yin and yang. He pronounced Kamala Harris, her name right. He referred to his opponent by his title. He didn't often, whine and complain about they're sabotaging me. They don't like me. Throughout the debates, on true social platforms, the Ohio senator was largely, to the details and of Walz's own biography. Walz, who came through, right, he was noticeably not comfortable with Vance, settled in his nervous start, and you could tell this type of platform is something I'm quite sure they was trying to get him prepared for, but he just wasn't prepared for it. His job was to come there and make Trump look bad. And he came there and started going after Trump, and he couldn't put his focus on Vance. Well, Trump's a liar. He ignores anything that the experts say, rejects the truth. And this is the Donald Trump we know. Anytime it's something unfavorable, he denies it and can't accept it. The debate is one thing. He lost the debate and he can't accept it. So this is a guy who couldn't accept the election loss of January 6th. And well, the biggest win for JD Vance decided to dodge January 6th in the funniest way ever. It was the clearest divide of everything. When Walz put Vance on the spot during January 6th about the insurrection, right? About Trump's false claim that he won the 2020 election. Did he lose the 2020 election? Walz asked, attempting to force him into this acknowledgement that Trump himself won't. Then he says, Tim, I'm focused on the future. That's how he chose to respond. Walz came back and said, that's a damning non-answer. That's when Walz got him. Now, if you could say everything about Walz lost tonight, and he looked bad, but he landed a point there on January the 6th. So they came back again on January the 6th. Because Vance tried to sidestep the whole thing. So they asked him on January 6th, what happened? Joe Biden became president. Donald Trump left the White House. Woo! Man, he was in there swimming, boy. He was swimming, boy. I like, go ahead, Vance. Swim in the middle. This dude, I couldn't believe he was in there swimming. He couldn't give you a straight answer at all. Well, JD Vance decided, I know how to fight in this arena. You're not finna box me in. So Vance decided to get dirty. Let's get dirty. Let's get dirty. So that's what Vance did. Vance got dirty. Vance said, you know what I'm going to do here. Well, it was crazy, you know. 74 million votes. Well, oh no, Vance flipped it around. See, that's what he did. He flipped it. He said, oh, no, you ain't finna get me like that. Trump's action in 2020 was not unusual. He pointed to the Democratic complaints about Russian interference in the 2016 election. He talked about Hillary Clinton in 2016, said Donald Trump had the election stolen by Vladimir Putin because the Russians bought like $500,000, what he said, 500,000 worth of Facebook ads. And Walz was like, January 6th was not about Facebook ads. But unlike Trump, Clinton conceded the 2016 election and did not attempt to interfere with the counting of electoral votes. Something Trump did. Now, Walz drilled into some details that Trump's efforts to overturn the election results. You know, how he lost the election. What did he say? He said he didn't. 140 police officers were beaten at the Capitol that day, some with the American flag, and several later died. The democracy is bigger than winning an election. So it was clear this is what the direction was for Walz, was to embarrass and hammer home on January 6th. So Vance's job was to redirect the people back to the discussion of democracy and to the debate about censorship on social media. Walz pushed back on that, arguing that Trump was already laying the groundwork to reject everything. See, Walz's whole thing was Trump, Trump, Trump. So it was like 4 years later, we're in the same boat. The winner needs to be the winner. This has got to stop. It's tearing our country apart. So both of them are two Midwesterners who are just alike. One's just older than the other. They both agree on a lot of views. And there was no name calling. You know, it's a couple of little zingers here and there. So, you know, the casual social media fans couldn't get their WWE moments. And this is why we're stuck in this conundrum right now. And once you do that, most people find it respectfully divisive or misguided. And a lot of people agreed with a lot of things that, like he said, he agreed with a lot of what JD Vance said about what's happening with his running mate. But when it turns to the debate about abortions and stuff like that, then that becomes a problem. You know, Walz rejected the claim that housing prices were being driven up by immigrants. That's really not the case. I wouldn't say immigrants was drawing it up. There's a lot of issues there that are drawing it up, and we need to figure out what's the middle ground there. But yeah, there is a problem. No, they mentioned a bunch of ideas, but halfway through it, like they say, you could disagree with them. And I felt JD Vance beat him on the housing market, and of course, the biggest thing that everybody's going to talk about is, and what they've been talking about, is the pet eating claim and the immigration clash. You should have known that was coming. So Walz invoked that this false claim about Haitian immigrants eating the pets and the residents. There's consequences for this, Walz said, pointing out that the Ohio governor, Mike DeWine, who's a Republican, he dispatched state troopers to Springfield to ensure the safety of children after there were some threats about we're going to have a bomb go off and all this stuff. So they said, man, Vance was like, look, the people I care about in Springfield are the American citizens. So he's basically saying, if you're an immigrant, I don't care about you. So that's not going to go over well for somebody who's an immigrant who came to this country and got American citizenship. They might feel a certain way. And that was a bad look for JD Vance. And the Ohio City and other things like that, when they start talking about the influx of schools problem and education, hospitals overcrowded, you got housing that's unaffordable. Now, Vance is trying to say Ohio is ruined because of the people that we have in charge that is running everything. So what JD Vance was talking about is the 12,000 to 15,000 Haitian migrants in Springfield are the United States legally. But Walz didn't fact check Vance on the matter at all. He didn't fact check when he said that. Once he starts saying you got schools overwhelmed, hospitals overwhelmed, you got housing that's unaffordable, when he started talking about the migrants that are in Springfield right now. See, what Vance didn't tell you is there's about almost 13,000 migrants in Springfield are in the United States legally. Over 13,000. But Walz didn't fact check Vance on that matter. CBS moderator Margaret Brennan explained those migrants' legal status. So that clash over Springfield became a lengthy back and forth over immigration policies. Vance again started calling the border czar and all that. She's the czar of the border. She's the border czar. Well, when you got people who tackle the root causes of migration in Central America and all these places that we don't really understand, bipartisanships and border patrol, stuff that the regular American don't know anything about. So the regular American just going to be like, yeah, get them goddamn immigrants out my country. And even though they don't know an immigrant, they haven't really, the person next door to them could be an immigrant. They wouldn't even know the difference. It's not like they got a flashing sign that says flashing on their chest, immigrant, immigrant, immigrant. You wouldn't even know. Now, when Walz tried to flip it and said we could come together and solve this if we didn't let Donald Trump continue to make it an issue. So when they say America will decide this election, well, yeah, Walz was a little confused a lot when he started talking about Tiananmen Square. Tiananmen Square. 13,000 illegal immigrants in the United States that have been convicted of homicide, when there's about 20 million homicides committed by actual American citizens. I don't think their status matters when it comes to homicide. Homicide is homicide. I don't care what color or your race. If you kill somebody, I know, I'm not going to be sitting around going, that Brazilian came through here and killed my cousin. It's not something that we're going to pretty much care about. So when you focus on 13,000 illegal immigrants, did this, how many murders did the legal citizens do in this country? Since that's a big major factor for you, you need to understand why you said what you said and understand you're saying that you're just going to be tone deaf to one deaf. But I'm focused about if migrants who are illegal killing people. They're never going to fix the migrant problem. Do you think this country is built on cheap labor? Not built on taking care of what they call the losers. America was built for the winners, by the winners, and the winners are normally a bunch of losers who don't want to do anything. They don't want to pay taxes. That's what the losers are supposed to do. They're supposed to pay all the taxes. Well, I wouldn't say he's a complete liar, but he just misspoke about Tiananmen Square today. When he was talking about he frequently traveled to China, he previously said he was as many as 30 times reported that those specific, whether the Minnesota governor was in Hong Kong and Tiananmen Square protests back in 1989. When he was asked about the reports and the discrepancies, that's when Kamala Harris campaign spokesperson said, it was like closer to 15 times. And when he asked directly during the debate, Walz, kind of filibustered. What he said, he can be a knucklehead at times. He misspoke. He said, well, he didn't seek to directly capitalize on the concession, but alluded to it in a different question, saying that when you misspeak, you ought to be honest with the American people about that. Yeah, he said he misspoke. But once they start talking about abortion, this is where JD Vance lose, though. We got a big country. It's diverse. And California has a different viewpoint than Georgia, which he knows nothing about. Well, they said Trump was on social media, I think, confirming that the vice president debate, but he determined on his own, saying now that he would veto a national abortion ban. The states will decide what's right for Texas, might not be right for Washington. That's not how this works. Walz said, this is a basic human's right. We need to see maternal morality skyrocket. That's what he said in Texas. Restrictions went in effect and they're outpacing many accounts in the world. You know, they were hammering home on the women's emotions so that most of the women that are listening to this is not going to like the fact that a man is telling them what they can do with their bodies. And this is going to, we're not talking about conservative wives. Conservative wives are programmed to follow their husband no matter what, because it makes them look bad if they don't, you know. So they're robots. So you just go along with the flow there with the robots, and it's just complete nightmare. But Vance, who spent most of the night on the front foot, he was more cautious during the exchange, plainly appealing to the swing voters' concerns. As many anti-abortion advocates have promised, the Republican Party needs to do a better job of advancing pro-family policies, including access to, you know, fertility treatments and making housing more affordable, you know. Walz repeatedly responded to the false claim that Trump and the governor supports abortion in the 9th month. And one of his stronger moments of the night, Walz said some stuff about women who faced health crises, died due to the state of abortions. What did he say? In Minnesota, we had to restore Roe versus Wade. We made sure that we put women in charge of their health care. So he incorrectly claimed that Trump campaigned and that Conservative Heritage Foundation project back in 2025 would create a registry of pregnancies. You know, the organization would require the Center of Disease Control, which is called the CDC, of course, to prevent the collection data on abortions. So it was just a misunderstanding, but definitely targeted well by Walz. Walz wanted to cause that you know, like he could say, oops, I misspoke. You know, that was deliberate. This one was completely deliberate. Now, Vance was asked if Trump's campaign wants to create a federal pregnancy monitoring agency, referring another past claim by Walz. And he started talking about, well, certainly we won't. We ain't going to do that. Then they want to talk about all the shootings that's been going on. Bing, 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 ricochet, bow, bow, bow. Right? So Vance and Walz had some to approach when they was going to construct a conversation about gun violence in America, getting worse and worse. This bears nothing. Just how fruitless past Democratic-led efforts have been in stemming from the bloody tide that's been going on between the two. They never had any real friendly nods during this whole thing. He said I would have just thrown a monkey wrench in the whole game. Meaning he lied. Well, if that's the case, you know, Vance lied a lot. If we're going to look at it like that, Vance been lying, Trump been lying. Trump ain't told the truth yet. So I would not be looking at Walz as a liar. just clearly lied, but he knew exactly what he was doing here when he made that claim. And Kamala Harris, well, we won't know if she's lying or not because she's never going to answer a question. Oh, well, they never, the whole thing about gun violence, they want to all be on the same side when it comes to gun violence, but don't want to restrict guns. The current administration border policy was driven home well by Vance. It was his driving factor to go after Kamala Harris. But he did also acknowledge it's a more complicated issue, which was a mistake by Vance. You don't say it's a more complicated issue, because if you say that, now you're giving Kamala Harris and Walz what they want, because that's what they've been saying all along. See, you just admitted it's a complicated issue. And the Vice President of the United States of America, the guy who's running right with Donald Trump, just admitted it's a complicated issue. And he's right. It's a complicated issue. So we can't just pin one side for something going wrong. Like he said, this is a complicated issue. Sometimes you got to watch what you say. That one last line you put could doom you. And that was a bad one for Vance. But Walz is so asleep at the wheel. He didn't know what was going on. He was just, he didn't realize that was the line that you needed to hear to say, okay, now it's game time. He just messed up. Like, you know you done effed up, don't you? You know you just effed up, don't you? You just said my point that me and Kamala Harris were saying. You know you done effed up, don't you? You know you just effed up. You just effed up. You just put Donald Trump in the bind. But Walz asleep at the wheel, so he just agreed with him. Yeah. And mental health and drug use, another cause of gun deaths. It's like, okay, drugs and mental health. You got mental health problems, keep them away from guns. Okay, I agree with that. And Walz says sometimes it's just the guns. Biggest error of the night for Walz. Is just the guns? So we just gonna sit there and say the guns just gonna jump up like, man, guns, sit down. Come on. No, F this. Come on. Where the 224 at? Hey, 224, come on over here. AR-10, get on board. We going out. The guns are moving. The guns have walked out the door, and where we going? We going to school. So it's like, what the hell are you? Sometimes it's just the guns. I would have fell out. If I was in this earpiece, I'd been like, you dumb mother. I'd have just been cussing him out in the earpiece. He'd have took the earpiece out. I've been yelling at him so bad. You dumb son of You just ticked off anybody that owns a gun. And you supposedly own a gun. According to Kamala Harris. Me and Walz, we both own guns. He's looking like, I do. Yeah, we registered you for a gun last week. Now, we'll take you shopping for one in case they ask you. This is what kind of gun you own. Oh my goodness. This is just terrible. Sometimes it's just a gun. He said the idea of stigmatizing mental health just because you have a mental health issue doesn't mean you're violent. Well, some candidates are sharing their concerns over how schools are responding to threats of active shooters again. Vance treated the issue as something more like a force of nature than a political question. He starts saying, unfortunately, we got to increase security in schools. We have to acknowledge that this is not a pleasant prospect. We have to make the doors lock better. We have to make the doors stronger. We've got to make the windows stronger. So basically, you want to make a prison. No, you need better security at the schools. You need armed people at the doors of schools so people know not to F around. Okay? You want to try that here? You're going to get laid down real quick. You're going to have a bad mental health day. We got some cures for you. You ain't going to be just waltzing in here carrying a dog on AR coming into a building. Not going to happen, bro. You going to get laid down. No, Walz agreed, but in part for tighter restrictions. Said, do you want your schools hardened to look like a fort? Oh, and healthcare. Trump has no plan for that. He said, of course, we're going to cover Americans with pre existing conditions. But Trump has never articulated how he would change the Affordable Care Act, which was key when he first ran. We're going to get rid of Obamacare. But now they don't call it Obamacare anymore. It's the Affordable Health Care Act. Which is was it really called, but then it was Obamacare, is what they wanted to call it. Obamacare. We got to get rid of Obamacare. But now that it's been successful and they've been using it, and he used it all his 4 years while he was in the White House, they don't call it Obamacare no more. Now it's the Affordable Care Act. And Obama brought that up. I see they don't call it Obamacare no more now that it's working. They call it what it actually is and then try to take credit for it. Well, he declined to mention anything about Trump's plan. Then he says, I'm not going to propose a 900-page bill standing on a debate stage. It would bore everybody into tears. And it wouldn't exactly mean anything because of this. This is a give and take type of bipartisan negotiation. Well, if that's the case, then you're telling us Trump has a 900-page bill. Can't wait to see it. So now, Walz pounced again on Trump's pledge to undo President Barack Obama at the time, his signature law about the Health Care Act. Noted that it would have been successful had the late John McCain not cast the deciding vote against the repeal. Going back to remember this, he ran on the first thing he was going to do on day one was repeal Obamacare. That's what he said. What that means is you lose your pre-existing condition insurance. If you're sitting at home and you got asthma, too bad. If you're a woman, probably not. Broke your foot during football, might kick you out. Your kids getting kicked out when they are 26. So overall, I would say it was a good night. Both sides landed some blows. JD did a lot of swimming, And the eye mascara that he be putting on, I don't know where he gets it. JD Vance, he doesn't even look real sometimes. Like he's ready to film a movie or something. Walz looks like another Joe Biden in the wings. Will he make it another 8 years before he starts falling down? They won't put those metal detectors in those schools like they do the inner city. Well, shoot, I think they all need metal detectors. I remember they tried them out at our school during my senior year. And I was like, man, we got metal detectors now just to get into school. And we had never even had a shooting incident. They wanted to test it out. They're like, they're going to be doing metal detectors. We only came through the school and like they had 3 ways to get into school that they allowed you in. You didn't enter during the lunchroom. I mean, that's an exit only, with no entrance. So the front door entrances, you didn't go through the main doors to get into the school. You went through like the side doors to get into the schools. Oh, he doesn't have a concept. He doesn't have a clue. No, I didn't. He looked very lethargic. He probably was tired, but, but, yeah. He said Vance has a white hoodie with holes in it. No, I don't think he does because it would mess up his hair. He can't have that. But quite sure his fathers, his brothers, they all have them. In Ohio, oh gosh, without a doubt. Exactly. So I want to say thank y'all. Don't forget to subscribe to One Crack News. Hit the like button too if you're here. Appreciate y'all. Thanks again, and we're out.